Hi everyone, how's it going? So today I'm joined by Justin, and Justin's going to be going through something with me. I haven't done any preparation whatsoever, so I've no idea roughly what he's going to be talking about. So without further ado, Justin, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, great. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me on your channel. So today I want to discuss something that's sort of passionate for me is about relationships and how we relate to others, and
Mm,
in particular why we get triggered and why relationships go south on us and why we struggle in relationships, because this was something that
mm,
my wife and I actually struggled with as well, and we had to do a lot of learning and educating ourselves to understand what was really going on. So there's some hidden dynamics that we discovered that when we don't see it, when we don't really understand what's going on, we're in total reaction mode all the time. We're not really living
mm,
consciously. We're not being conscious in our life and our relationship. And I'll just say too, right up front, when I talk about relationships, that it's easy to see with your partner or an intimate partner or a lover or whatever that relationship is there, but there's also relationships with our colleagues, our co-workers, our kids, everyone in our
mm,
life that we relate to, and not just people, but life in general. So how we relate to all aspects of our life, whether it's
mm,
our health and fitness or our career or whatever. To me, that's all relationship. We are in relationship to everything in our life, so that it's important to
mm,
understand that dynamic as well. So
mm,
um, that's the premise, I suppose, of what I'm all about, and what I love talking to you about, Josh, is how do we be conscious and how do we get below our own patterns and conditioning and actually live our life consciously. So
mm.
that's a bit of an introduction, I suppose, as to where we're going with this session.
Yeah.
So um, yeah, so if you're happy, I'll just carry on. I've got a small presentation that I can run through, and yeah, feel free to ask questions along the way. So
Yeah, that's fine. I'm
yeah,
I'm all
I'll
ears.
just share this screen here. Um, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what I call the road to relationship. So how do we go from not really understanding who we are to transforming ourselves to really get a good handle on who we are as a person, and then how we relate to
Mm,
life and others in general. So I'm going to go through this pretty quick because I know we've only got a certain amount of time. So feel
mm,
free to ask questions along the way.
yeah.
So firstly, we're going to have a quick look at why am I like I am and why you like you are. So how do we form our minds, our patterns of behaviour, and our models of love, where our models of love are created. So how did
Mm,
our personal mind develop in childhood? It's important we understand that. How do we build our beliefs of ourselves and the world around us? And where did our model of love come from? Without understanding this fundamental stuff, it's very difficult to relate to ourselves and others. So
mm,
just before we go too far, I'm just going to say that our child mind is programmed in response to our early childhood experiences to protect us and ensure our survival from perceived threat. So as a child, especially between the ages of 0 and 7, one of the largest functions of our brain is to keep us safe. We're completely
mm,
dependent on others for our survival, and this is programmed in, this is baked into our biology, that our biology knows that we cannot survive on our own. We need help from the outside world. So our brain is starting to wire us through this mechanism of safety.
mm,
This early childhood program is automatically stored in our subconscious mind and controls our thoughts and behaviours to our current life events. So again, our mind is trying to keep us safe in all aspects of our life, and to do that, we go through certain experiences and then we write that down in our subconscious mind, which becomes an automatic program that gets triggered and fired off in
mm,
any event to keep us safe going forward in the future. So you can see that if we've had experiences in the past that are programmed in, they continue to run automatically until we look at them.
mm,
So we're going to look at this dynamic now in a bit more detail as to how we actually build this subconscious mind, these subconscious programs, and this forms what's known as our ego, the false self, or or the conditioned self that we've become. So let's just say we're born unlimited, we're authentic, we're curious, we're joyful, we're loving, but we don't know who we are. We're actually unconscious. We don't know who we are as a human being. We're just this blob, and our biology is picking up everything from the outside world, and we, carry on in a fairly automatic way. Let's just say that we followed our natural inclination. We were, followed this curiosity, this joy, this loving nature that we had. And you can see on the left-hand side there of this diagram that red arrow, let's just call that your soul path, or your essence, your energy, your soul, whatever you want to call it, that core of who we are. If we just followed our heart and led our life with that, that's the direction we would go in, and that's how we would live our life. But what happens in life is that, as we mentioned before, our mind is always scanning our environment to try and keep us safe. So this little balloon, the representation here is, let's just say you're a baby and something happens, and you have a feeling, or you have a desire or a need, and that it might be that you're hungry, and you cry and you cry, and if your mother or father or your caregiver comes to you straight away and soothes you, gives you milk, gives you breast milk, whatever, gets you what you need and calms your nervous system down, and you regulate yourself back down to a place of safety, you can return back to that red arrow on the left, if you like, that life is good, your needs are met, you feel whole and complete, there's no need for concern. But if, for whatever reason, that your parents or your caregiver couldn't come at that point in time, whether it was, we don't know what the reason is. It could be neglect. It could be that there was a legitimate reason why they couldn't come. There may be other kids that they were attending to, they couldn't get to. It doesn't matter what the external circumstance is. For you, you didn't feel safe in the moment because your needs weren't met at within an appropriate time frame, and your nervous system gets dysregulated. And for the mind and your nervous system, that's not safe. So your body writes down an unconscious program again to say, we need to be on alert in this situation because that was painful. We don't want to experience that again. It's very difficult with these very early programs to see them because they're what are called implicit memories. We don't remember them. We don't have a picture of what it is. Our body remembers. It gets coded into our nervous system and our subconscious mind, but we don't actually remember it. You can't remember. I'm sure not many people can remember crying as a baby because they were hungry, but it gets baked into the system and becomes an unconscious program. And this is why it becomes difficult later in life to unpick it because we can't see it. But I'll put a few more of these up, and as we go along, it's if you can imagine, we're now moving through our life, and if we're 2 or 3 now, and you're running through the house with a glass of milk because you think as a kid that sounds like a wonderful thing to do. You just feel like this is fun, I'm doing it, and you trip and spill the milk and it goes everywhere, and mum and dad are trying to get to work and they yell at you and tell you you've been stupid or whatever the case may be. Again, you've had a natural inclination to express yourself in a way that feels right for you. However, the external circumstance has shown you that what you've done is not appropriate or is somehow bad, or based on the look on your parents' face, they're angry. So you get the feedback in your nervous system that what I've done is wrong, and the child makes up, goes one step further and says, I'm wrong. So it's not what I've done is wrong, but I'm wrong. And this again gets baked into the system as I'm wrong. And we don't like to not feel loved. We make up a story that we're not lovable in that moment. And again, we create a subconscious program to say, I need to avoid that. And now we create an adaptive behavior. Now we adapt and we change our behavior to suit the behavior that we're conditioned to have, because again, we need that for survival. So you can already start to see, Josh, how we're starting to bend and flex and change our behavior. We're starting to adapt our behavior away from our true, authentic core and be conditioned by our external circumstances. So I'll move this forward a bit more, and this happens time after time, hundreds of times through our life, especially in that early period from 0 to 7 when we're absolutely dependent on our parents. And here I'll say that life experience comes in and feels uncomfortable. So it's easy. I'm typically talking about the negative experiences here because these are the ones that cause us most of the problems in our life. Not this also happens on the positive side as well, but that they're easier to deal with. But on the negative side, life experiences come in and it feels uncomfortable in our nervous system. So when we've never had something happen before, so the first time anything happens in our life and it feels uncomfortable, our mind has no reference for it. We don't have a model of what that is. So the mind is a meaning-making machine. We make up a meaning about what everything means for us. So we make up a meaning in relation to the feeling, that we adapt our behavior to suit this meaning, and we push the energy away from our nervous system as it's too uncomfortable to handle. So at the same time we do that, we create a belief from this meaning about how we need to operate. And this is where some of our core beliefs come from, that, we're no good, we're not good enough, we're not lovable, whatever it is. That's where these beliefs start getting laid down. So we commit the belief to our subconscious, and again, our subconscious is an automatic system. It's our brain is wired subconsciously to conserve energy. So we write these programs and create these neural pathways so that energy can flow quickly and effectively and efficiently to keep us safe and so that we can operate our life with maximum efficiency. And we use our subconscious mind to monitor our experience and to act consistent with our beliefs. So our subconscious mind is always scanning our environment. Every single person, when your partner tweaks her eye or whatever, our subconscious picks all this stuff up at lightning speed because it's scanning our environment all of the time for things we recognise in the past in order to keep us safe now and going into the future. So this happens time and time again all through our life, and now we get, later in life when things become more and more complex. If you go back, you can see at the start where we start to create these beliefs that I'm not good enough, or I need to behave in a certain way, or I need to please other people. This becomes more and more complex, and those core beliefs now start getting woven into everything that we start experiencing. So as we go through adolescence and sexuality comes online and our friendship circles grow, and then we go to work and now we're interacting with other people and life becomes more and more complex. Those core beliefs, if we haven't looked at them, start getting baked into all of those new neural pathways, those new relationships and things we have in our life. That those core beliefs are baked all through those. So at the same time, this bubble or that balloon is the energy we're pushing away, that emotional energy that we haven't been able to process in real time. We push it away, create the program, and change our behavior. That energy has to go somewhere. It doesn't just disappear. We actually store it in the body, and this is stored as our emotional body. And that's why you can feel yourself when you just feel heavy. You feel like, by the time I really went through a big change in my life, I was 40 when my life fell apart. And, my wife said that, we're on track for divorce if we didn't change, and my life started to unravel. And by the time I was there, I just felt heavy and dense and, angry and frustrated, and all of this negative emotion was just piled in. Well, that's that balloon that I'm trying to show there, is that this emotion that we've been pushing away our whole life, every time we can't handle something and it reaffirms the belief we have, we push it away again and again and again. That energy just gets stored in our body, and it becomes what is called our shadow side, or our wounded self, the wounded part of ourselves that we really don't want to look at, we don't want to feel. And what we end up doing now is, because our mind is trying to avoid pain and seek pleasure, we actually now have a whole host of things in our life based on our past that we don't want to go to, we don't want to look at, we don't want to face, we avoid. So we avoid difficult conversations in our relationships. We avoid certain people. We avoid, doing hard things at work. Whatever it is, there's all of the beliefs we have for us, and this is an individual thing. It's not, that ball of stuff for me and those programs and those beliefs that I have would be vastly different to yours. There'd be some common ones, but they're based on our own individual experience of life. And this is where we can't, pit ourselves against someone else, or we can't say that my trauma is bigger than yours or whatever. It's a very individual thing about how we've experienced life and how we've personally internally processed things as to how this shows up in our body and then in our behavior and then in the results we have in our life. So
so one question I have, so obviously, like you mentioned, like when you're born, you're kind of in this like pure state where you're not really aware of anything, and you're essentially, you don't have this formed character, you don't have formed judgments or opinions about the world. But as you get older, these experiences kind of condition you to think and feel a certain way, and as you go through life, it starts to weigh down on you more in an emotional way, and obviously you're going to be acting in different ways to that. Is that essentially what's happening here?
Yeah. So I believe, this is my belief, that we have pre-programmed parts of ourselves, and this is, if you look at spirituality or if you believe in past lives, if you don't, that's fine, but if you believe in past lives, you bring in certain patterns with you for this lifetime. So we're not completely blank slates, I don't believe. We have preconceived, or we have a pre-programmed nature of who we are. This is our soul and what we have to express. But then our experiences on top of that modify and change where we are going. So we don't remember all of our beliefs. We don't remember all of our, cognitively. We don't cognitively remember all of our beliefs when we're born. But I believe some of them are there already. And that's why we act a certain way. That's why we behave a certain way, that they're already, that nature is there in us. But then the experiences we go through start to change our beliefs because we're not conscious of our beliefs. We're easily suggestible as children. I think that's where we start to adapt our behaviour, and that's why we start to lose connection with our core. We start to lose connection with our authentic self. And that's when we feel the weight of that emotional, baggage sitting on us, because we're ultimately not acting authentically anymore. We're acting as a conditioned entity. So when we get to that point in our life, for me, this was like 40 when I got here, and lots of people get to a midlife crisis or some point in their life where things fall apart, and we start to look deeper and ask deeper questions. I think this is where I say is the turning point. So we've got this weight of emotional baggage which has come from fear, adapted behaviours, limitations, unresolved emotional experiences, all of this subconscious stuff, the stuff we're not aware of that's happened, that's caused us to be programmed the way we are. And this, life feels heavy as all of our life energy is used up trying to control the people, places, and things in our life, so our emotional baggage isn't triggered. We unconsciously operate in an attempt to avoid feeling pain, hurt, and wounded. So again, our mind is trying to avoid pain and it's trying to seek pleasure. And in that process, it is using all of our life energy to manage this whole catalogue of conditions and programs in our mind. Instead of being creative and being authentic, we're actually using all of our life energy to try to manage and manipulate everything around us, outside of us, so that we can avoid the things that have hurt us in the past, and we can go after the things that we think, based on our past experiences, the things that we think will bring us joy. So this is where we get we're basically stuck in our head trying to make all of this model of reality come to pass for us so that we don't have to feel certain uncomfortable things in our life. That becomes very heavy. That's often when we get an emotional burnout or reach a midlife crisis or whatever, at whatever stage in your life, is where your nervous system can't keep doing that anymore. There's too much energy going into trying to manage the system. So at this point, we need to make a change, and some people will have an event, whether that's an illness or a relationship breakup, or there's usually some trigger event that pushes you deep enough that you realise, I need to make a change. I can't keep doing what I'm doing anymore. And we make a change. This is something we can choose to make a change on, but generally it's pain or suffering that causes us to make the change. So this is what I call a road to relationship, and this is where we transform and heal ourselves, and we understand where we are, that how we got to where we are. We take 100% responsibility for the results in our life, and we learn what's needed to transform, to release the patterns that no longer serve us. This is what I call a road to relationship, because now we actually need to understand who we are and how we relate to ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, what's really going on for us, because until we understand that, we can't really relate to the outside world in a healthy way, because most of the outside relationships we have at this point are based on our past experiences, and they're, a lot of them are there in an attempt to try and keep us comfortable. And we're actually here to grow. We're here to learn, to figure out who it is that we are and find our true core and our empowered self. That's why we're here as human beings, is to find that core of who we are. So when we do this healing work and go on this journey, which, we need certain skills and education, and this is the start of the education and the awareness of, we need to go on this journey for ourselves to find out who it is that we really are beyond all of this conditioning, below all this conditioning, because that's where our true core is. That's where our true power resides, is in that place. So once we do that, we're, life's blooming and we're thriving, and we still have challenges, we still have hiccups along the way. There's still a lot of work to be done on ourselves when we start this journey, but life becomes lighter and lighter, and we start to feel our own power more and more. And we also see how we're, not relating to people in a healthy way, and how we can release other people from the burden of trying to make us feel better about ourselves. So that's the end of that bit, Josh. That's our individual dynamic. That's how we, become who we become, and how we build the ego, how we build this structure or this concept of who we think we are. And most of the time it's based on how we need to get love, how we need to be approved by others, how we need to fit in with others. And that's, largely an adaptive process, because we don't know the true nature of ourselves, and that is that we are worthy, we are loved, we are, deserving. So have you got any questions there? Is that...
It makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah.
You go from this state where you're kind of unaware, you go through life, things happen, you get certain conditioning, build certain beliefs about yourself. It starts to weigh on you very heavily, and then I guess you reach a critical point in your life where you realise you've had enough of feeling this way, and you want to start doing better for yourself, and then you go onto this path of healing, and then everything seems much clearer, and you start to feel like your cup is much more full. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, that's great. It is, awareness is the key. Like, if we're not aware, we can't change what we can't see, ultimately. So if we're just not aware of what's happening within us, and I think it was Joe Dispenza. I'm not sure if you're aware of Joe Dispenza, but he says by the time we're 30, 95% of who we are is an unconscious program. So if we don't bring awareness to that unconscious program, 95% of who we are and how we show up is just a repetition of the past. It's just a complete repetition of our programming. So, it's really important to become aware of our own subconscious so that we can consciously choose to be who it is that we want to be.
Yeah.
So I'll keep moving here. This is just aware of the time. So this next little bit is why do we get triggered? So this is the unseen relationship dynamic that a lot of people don't see, and where does all the triggering come from in our relationships? And so often we hear it's clearly my partner's fault. If they would just change, I'd be okay. So if everyone outside of me would just change and if life would just work out the way I wanted it to, then everything would be okay. That's wonderful, but that's not reality. That's not how things work. So this is the relationship dynamic that hopefully this will bring some light to people as to where the triggering comes from, why it's painful, and what we need to do about it. So that's what we went through just before of how the individual becomes who they are. And again, this is when you're unaware, so you haven't seen any of this training, you're not aware of yourself, your subconscious, or you have no idea about how any of this stuff works. Let's just say this is a person who has all that emotional baggage, all of these conditions, and this is still true for me and you as well, Josh, like all of us. It's not like this is ever done either. It's not like a journey that's finished. We just become aware of it, and then we start to unpick this baggage for ourselves. So,
yeah.
But let's just say this is one person who is unaware, and they've got all this emotional baggage and these conditions, and they need life to be a certain way so that their ego isn't triggered, so that their stuff's not triggered, and then they'll be happy. And then they meet this other person who has, they resonate at the same place. So when you meet someone, you form this connection and you feel, we all say these things like, oh, I resonated with them, or I vibed with them, or we just clicked, or whatever the saying is. You're basically at a vibrational match, and our vibration is set based on our emotional content. So if we're holding on to dense emotions, we're a match for somebody else who is holding on to dense emotions. And this doesn't mean that your experiences are the same. It doesn't mean that you have a similar life story. It just means you have based on your beliefs and your conditions and everything you have programmed into you, you are a vibrational match to the people that you connect with or that you resonate with. So in this way, you're both matched vibrationally, and without the awareness, you both unconsciously try to avoid your pain of your emotional triggers by trying to control or avoid the behaviours of the other. This only results in reinforcing your own emotional wounds and those of your partner. So while the experiences and the patterns may be different, we are matched as emotional equivalents. So what we're saying there is that, you have your emotional baggage, and when you meet someone, you're a vibrational match, and they're going to, by the nature of a relationship, press on your emotional stuff. They're going to trigger you. And this is something, we're not taught about relationships, is we're sold the model that it's happily ever after, that we meet at the full fairy tale movie stuff where you meet and then it's all happy days and they should make you happy after that. But a relationship is actually there as a mirror to show you what you believe about yourself, what's hiding within you, and in that way your partner will trigger your stuff. You cannot be in a relationship and not have your stuff triggered by your partner. It doesn't work. The only way it would work is if you both chose to deliberately not touch each other's stuff, but in that way you would both stay where you are. You would both stay stuck within the conditions and the programming that you are. And that's fine for some people, that actually works. But if you are getting triggered constantly by your partner, this is what's happening, is they are triggering the stuff that's within you, because if we didn't have stuff within us that could be triggered, if we didn't have these wounds, if we didn't have these conditions, if we didn't have all of that stuff from the past that was uncomfortable, if it wasn't in us, it wouldn't get triggered to start with. So the fact that it gets triggered means that there's healing to be done, that there's stuff within us that we need to resolve. So generally what happens is you go through a relationship, you meet and you're on that level and you're both on your best behaviours, and that's, the honeymoon period where it's all wonderful. But then the work starts, and we're here to grow. We're here to fundamentally realise who we are as a soul and become empowered. And that means we need to drop all the conditioning of who we think we are and become the authentic version of who we actually are. The only way we can do that is to have our ego, or these false beliefs, these wounds, these, beliefs we have about ourselves, limited beliefs, triggered in order to see them, because they're in our subconscious. We don't see them unless they get brought into our conscious awareness. And the mechanism for that is these triggers. When it gets triggered and it's painful, that is what's happening. These beliefs are coming into our awareness, or at least the opportunities there. If we choose to look at it and sit with the pain and look at it, we get the opportunity to see what's sitting within our subconscious and release it and change that pattern from a limited belief or an old wound into an empowered belief for ourselves. So usually what happens in a relationship is we meet, we fall in love, we go through this happy days stage, but then the triggering starts. Then the little things start happening, and then over time it gets worse and worse. And as people don't want to look at their stuff, and this was true for me too for many years, just avoiding, blaming my partner, trying to get her to not do certain things, and usually in very manipulative ways too, just, trying to coerce someone into acting a certain way, or, all of this behavior is an attempt not to feel what's coming up within us. But then it gets to a stage usually where one partner says, I've had enough, I can't keep going this way, because it's incredibly painful. You're just triggering each other and reinforcing each other's wounds, which becomes more and more painful. So usually one partner will say, I've had enough. I'm out, I'm leaving, or I need to make a change, and they'll, try and get therapy or coaching or help or start reading books or something. They do something to try and make a change. So at this point, somebody makes a change, and they go on that path of healing. They now take responsibility. They see, hang on, every time I'm triggered, this is my stuff. This is not, this is for me to resolve within me. I need to become the whole version of myself before I can, offer anything to anyone else. So this is where one person can change the dynamic in a relationship, because as this one person starts to change, it starts to change the dynamic. A relationship is always a dynamic between two people, which we both add ingredients to. So as one person changes the ingredients, the relationship itself changes. So one person goes on this journey, and then hopefully that inspires the other person to go on the journey as well. This is a very real fear that a lot of people have unconsciously, is that they almost know that when they change, it is going to change the dynamic. And one of the biggest fears is, maybe I'm going to lose this relationship. And that's actually something we have to face. My wife and I actually had to get to a point where we decided we have to let each other go, and we separated for a little bit. Not because we didn't want it to work, but we just needed clarity. We needed to let each other go in order to say, we need to be okay on our own before we can be in a relationship. So we have to face that fear. That doesn't mean you have to separate it. We don't know how this plays out. And this is the scary thing that we have to face, is I just need to find myself and become empowered and become conscious, and then I see what happens after that. So most of the time, your partner is inspired to go, because in this process you now see that your partner is actually wounded as well, and instead of just throwing them to the side, you actually want to help them. You actually want to have compassion for yourself and have compassion for your partner, that hey, this is a journey that every human being's on. Actually is we're all wounded, we're all want to be happy. We all want to be healthy, and the only way we can do that is to be conscious, to work through our own pains and traumas. So
yeah.
So hopefully we both go on that journey, and then as we get closer and closer to our authentic self, our energy rises. We start dropping all that emotional baggage, that emotional content, and now we no longer trigger each other. We still do trigger each other. That's just a byproduct of being in a relationship. But instead of being reactive and getting upset with our partner, we now do the internal work to see what that is, what the truth of that is, because the trigger's showing us something that's false, that we're wounded, that we're telling ourselves we're not good enough, that we're not worthy, whatever that is. So when we heal that, then we can let that go and we become a better version of ourselves. And we help our partner do the same. And that's what builds intimacy, and that's what, gets us back to being loving and curious and enjoying life again. So, so that's that relationship dynamic. Josh, have you got any comments or questions or anything you want to throw in there?
It makes a lot of sense, to be honest. I mean, I can definitely relate in a lot of ways, because in my relationship, the relationship got to a point where, I had to realise a lot about myself, and that kind of led me on a big self-development journey and becoming more self-aware. And in doing that, she started to see that there was a vulnerable side to me that I wasn't willing to show. And in a lot of ways, that kind of what brought us back together. She realised that there is a human side to me. It built up a lot of trust, a lot of connection that wasn't there before. And it inspired her to now do the same thing. So, she's on a healing journey now, and she's making a lot of progress. And now the relationship is in a place where we're both growing and we're both trying to be our best selves, which is, drastically increasing the quality of the relationship.
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful thing. You can attest to that fear at the start too, Josh, that, the subconscious or these programs, this emotional content that we're holding on to is actually just trying to protect us from feeling that fear, but once we build some capacity to handle that fear, we now see the benefit in going after it and chasing it. Yeah. Well, we don't have to chase it. It just comes up. It comes up for us all the time, but we know to do the work on it because the results are there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I've just got one last piece here, and that is to go on this journey. So once we actually start to want to go on this journey and change and start to heal ourselves, and for things to look upwards in our life, there's 5 traits that I've noticed, that I've needed in my life and with the clients I've worked with, is that whenever we don't have one of these traits, we end up back in that subconscious program. We end up, resting back into that emotional baggage for safety again. So I'm going to go through those now with you, Josh. And before we do that, actually, here's some take-home messages from those last bits, is that we are conditioned and so is our partner. So we have to assume that we actually don't know ourselves. We only know our conditioning. So once we know that we're conditioned, that's like you just said before, there is a human behind all of that conditioning. The conditioning is just a protective mechanism, but there is a vulnerable human being behind all of that stuff. Unresolved emotions and issues and traumas are stored within us, so they're baked into our nervous system, into our neurobiology. As a result of all the experiences we've had, all of that stuff is baked into our system. Our partner is an emotional and energetic match for us, so this is where we can't point the finger at our partner anymore and say they're the problem, they're the one making me unhappy, they're the one, causing my life to be shit. That's not true. That's not the case, because you have just as much work to do on yourself as your partner does on them, and we can't work on our partner. We can only work on ourselves. So we are an energetic match. You're not together by mistake. The relationship dynamic shows you that when you are triggered, the reaction that you have is a response to the past, to what's within you. So when we are triggered, there's an automatic response. We get angry, we get pissed off, we get frustrated, whatever it is. There's that automatic, really quick fire response is showing us that is trying to protect us from seeing what's below that, because there's something there that's hurt us in the past. And we need to take responsibility and release our emotions from being, we need to take responsibility and release our partner from being responsible for our emotions. This understanding can help us bring compassion for ourselves and our partner, because all of this is happening to them too. So if we have an emotion, if we have a feeling that is within us and we own that, that's happening within us and our partner, while the interaction may have triggered it within us, the actual emotion itself is ours to deal with. So we can't make our partner responsible for that emotion. It's within us. It's been triggered within us because of the stories and the experiences we've had in the past. That's not our partner's to bear. That's for us to bear. We need to deal with that ourselves. We can communicate that to our partner, and we can use our partner for support. And, it's great to talk about this stuff with your partner and get them on board with your journey, but it's not their problem, or it's not theirs to solve. Let's look now. What is it that we can do to improve our relationships? So these are the traits that we need that we need to build within ourselves. This is like a muscle that we need to build within ourselves to go on this journey. The first character is courage. So we need to learn to face the uncomfortable things that show up in our life, either our thoughts, feelings, or external people and situations. Again, there's beliefs, there's thoughts, there's feelings we have, there's people that trigger all of these feelings and thoughts within us that resonate from the past at a time when we were frightened and scared, and we automatically run away from those, through our controlling behaviors or whatever. But we need to have the courage to face this stuff, and it's not easy. We actually need to build this. And, there's certain things that we can build this muscle. It's very difficult to go straight for the biggest thing in your life, the biggest trauma in your life. It's going to be too overwhelming. So to build this muscle, to build these traits, I always suggest to people to build them outside of a sensitive topic. So building courage. So for me, a way I used to build courage when I was starting was I used to drink coffee every morning, for years and years. And I would do things like I would stop drinking coffee for a month, knowing that I would get withdrawals, knowing that my body would, kick back at me and I would have to feel uncomfortable. So I would willingly feel uncomfortable. That is a way to build courage. To, if you're really unhealthy and, overweight and it hurts to walk, well, go on a 10-minute walk each day. Do something which you willingly feel uncomfortable. That will start to build the muscle of courage, where you can start to handle things that are uncomfortable. And in that way, you can start to face more and more in your life. So don't go straight for the thing that's, big intimate issue or trauma or something. Start building this in, other ways where you build the muscle, and then you can go after more and more emotionally intense things in your life as they come up. The next one's curiosity. So we need to learn to be judgment-free, to explore ourselves and to see what's really there, and be open to receiving new information and feedback. So again, we're conditioned like a computer, and if we don't have curiosity for what programs are there, or to assume that we don't know ourselves, we'll automatically just run off those programs 24/7. So we need to be curious about ourselves. Oh, I wonder why I do that. Why do I believe that? Why do I behave that way? Just be less judgmental about ourselves and others, because if we're judging our partner, we're locking them into the same conditions. So again, curiosity, and we can build this through, one of the ways I build curiosity is to read a lot and listen to a lot of different podcasts and listen to a lot of different people, and just keep my mind open. Don't believe everything you hear, but just stay open and see how it resonates for you. See if it, feels true, because a lot of the times when we do something ourselves, if we sit with it a little bit, it doesn't even feel true what we're doing. So be open and curious. The third one is compassion. So we all have a past that only we have walked. We need to learn not to judge ourselves and others for their behaviour, and to remain open-hearted and curious, because we will trip, fall and stumble, as will others on this journey. And we need to have compassion for ourselves, that even our own behaviours are just trying to protect ourselves. Some of them are not healthy, some of them are not producing the best results for us, some of them are destroying our relationships, our careers, whatever it is. But we still need to have compassion for ourselves, that I am going to change, I am trying to change, I'm trying to be better for no other reason than I want to be better for myself. But that takes compassion, that, hey, I'm doing the best, and the unhealthy stuff that I have is just trying to keep me safe and keep me out of harm's way, even though it can put me in harm's way at the end of the day. So start to build compassion, and again, just look at other people with curiosity, and just know that, hey, I don't even fully understand my own journey and my own experiences, so how can I understand somebody else's? How can I really judge somebody else's experience when I don't really even understand my own? And the next one is commitment. So our automatic subconscious responses are strong, and it takes time to rewire new patterns. When we face hurdles and fall, we need to recommit. So that the subconscious part of our mind is the strongest part of our mind. It's the automatic programs that run our life, and that they're baked into our neurocircuitry, our neural pathways. And if we don't stay committed to the journey and constantly, try to act in different ways, or believe different things, or shift our perspectives on things, we will automatically fall back into those patterns. So this is a journey that takes a long time. It's a journey for a lifetime, really. It's, taken me 40 years to build the patterns I have. It'll take, another 40 years to undo some of them as well. So we have to commit to this journey if we want to see change in the long term. And it's all about the long-term game of becoming who it is that we envision ourselves to be, who we want to become. And that takes commitment, because we will fall, we will trip, we will stumble. The subconscious is very powerful, and it will keep replicating things from the past. We have to stay on top of it to, program it. And the last one is taking action. So we can know all of this stuff. You can know all of this training. You can read books. I'm sure a lot of us have read books, done courses, spent thousands of dollars on, whatever it is, coaching, courses, books, got all the information in the world. But if we don't actually take any action, we can't change. And some of that action, I explain to people is not taking action. And that sounds funny, but if you have if you get triggered and your automatic response is to jump down your partner's throat, then the action in that step would be to do nothing. It's like an internal action, an internal knowing that, okay, I need to hold strong here and not react on the first thing that comes up. So we need to take different action. If we're not taking different action, nothing changes. Our nervous system won't change. It won't rewire. Our neural pathways won't rewire. So we actually need to willingly take action towards whatever it is we're trying to achieve. So, so they're the 5 traits. Again, is courage, curiosity, compassion, commitment, and to take action. And I've found on my own journey, when I drop any one of those 5 out, I'll fall back into old patterns, and I need to revise, revisit those and go again. So, anyone watching this, I'd encourage you to, from everything that you've seen so far on this training, is to, pick one action that you could try immediately, so that you're not just watching this and taking it in as mind food, that you actually have something concrete you can actually go forward with and start to change your life. So write down one action that you could try this week to, start to shift your life in a different direction. I'll leave it there, Josh. That's I can stop sharing that screen now. Yeah, I know we've lost you on the video, but how did all that sit?
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. It really just goes to show that the relationship you have with yourself can directly impact the relationship you have with other people, which then, will circle back to you. So, I think it's about looking within instead of looking out, because so many people focus on all these external things, trying to change the outside world, trying to change, whether it's, maybe someone will seek to try and make more money, or or get in better shape to try and heal themselves. But really, what's most important is to look within and to heal that part of yourself, because then you understand yourself. It helps you to understand other people much better.
Absolutely, and like you were saying there, we all want to, try and earn more money or have a better body or whatever, when you do start looking inwards and you understand that you have all those conditions and programs, you start to realize that all of those things that you're trying to desire to get are actually an attempt to try and avoid pain and to get the things that you think based on the past will bring you pleasure. But a lot of that stuff might actually still be coming from a wound, or still be coming from a feeling of insignificance or whatever. So it is really important to look at that, to look internally, like you say, is that governs what we do in the outside world. How healed we are and what we attract to ourselves is actually based on the level of healing we have for ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like I've learned a little bit today. So obviously I'm glad you came on, Justin. And unfortunately the camera cut off for me, which is a bit of a pain. But yeah, I'm sure everyone watching right now, I'm sure it's been very insightful, and hopefully a lot of people watching can start to heal and understand themselves much better, and thus improve their relationship with themselves and the relationship with others, and live a better, more fulfilling life.
Absolutely. It's all there for us. We just need to go inside and have a look.
Definitely, man.
Awesome.
So yeah, just I'd like to thank you for coming on today. Is there anything you want to finish off with before we wrap things up?
No, I appreciate you inviting me, Josh, and I've enjoyed it. It's been fun. If anyone wants to get in contact with me, they can get in contact through you, or just look me up on Facebook. That's fine.
Yeah, sounds good, man. All right, well, thanks for coming today, and everyone, thanks for joining us for this session. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Josh. Cheers.